what you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And what that means, here's what that means. You create immense clarity about each area of your life. Exactly the person you want to be, exactly what you want to accomplish, and precisely how you're going to achieve your clearly defined goal. And once you create that clarity, you put it on a template that I create. And now putting it on the template will allow you to create the clarity. But you get it on the template, and then you start feeding it to yourself.
The axe story about the lumberjack who goes to work for a timber merchant, and he comes in the first day, he knocks down 10 trees. The second day, he knocks down 5 trees. The third day, he knocks down 2 trees. By the 5th day at the end of the week, he doesn't have any trees knocked down. He can't cut any. And he comes back in the office at the end of the day on Friday to the timber merchant, and he says, "I let you down. I couldn't chop down any trees today." And he goes, "Well, did you take time to sharpen your axe?" And he goes, "How can I do that? I was chopping trees down." So the moral of the story is you can't just keep going all the time. You got to take time to sharpen your axe.
Unfinished Business Podcast Show with your host, David Sliman.
Welcome back to the Unfinished Business Podcast Show, everybody. And I can't tell you how excited I am about our guest today. Our guest is John Mitchell. Okay. He's an entrepreneur, success mentor, works with the athletic organization in Texas. But more importantly, he is the author of The Missing Secret. And listen, this is a breakthrough continuation of Napoleon Hill's timeless classic, Think and Grow Rich. Now, I brought this, John, I just show it because this has been my Bible for years, which is an iteration of a Napoleon Hill Think and Grow Rich book, The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. And more importantly, John took Hill's 1937 principles of success and combined them with modern neuroscience to uncover how to actually reprogram the subconscious mind to achieve extraordinary results. And I believe in this wholeheartedly, not because I just think it's a thing, but I've lived it. And I am so excited to jump into this conversation. And through his 12-minute a day methodology, which John's going to go into, he's really helped high-performing entrepreneurs, executives, professionals bridge that gap between, how would I say it, knowing what to do and actually probably executing on it more consistently. But enough of me talking. All right, John's going to talk about his story. And in this conversation, we're going to explore the missing secret, bring his ideas that he brought to life and hear about that and go from there. So, John, I want to thank you for being on the show and welcome.
David, thank you for having me. I think that most of your audience is going to find what we're going to talk about interesting, but I would dare say that some of them will find it life-changing. So
that's great. That's why we do this show, my friend. And again, I really mean it. I've been looking forward to this interview just since we've had our conversation. I don't know, it was 3 or 4 weeks ago we talked, and having the connection to Napoleon Hill myself and living by those principles, I'm really excited to dive into this. So let's do it, man. Let's jump into this. What first drew you? Actually, I want to get into this question, but what drew you to the Think and Grow Rich book, and how did it ultimately? Well, I'm going to stop there, and then I'm going to move to my next question. But what drew you to it?
Well, let me just basically tell you my story. So I became an entrepreneur when I was 30 years old. Started out as a CPA and realized that probably 28, but I did not want to be a CPA all my life, and so I became an entrepreneur. And in my 30s and 40s, I was in 7 different businesses. So I get to be 50 years old. And David, I'm just not as successful as I think I should be. And I had really two goals in my life: to make enough money so I didn't have to work, and to find the woman of my dreams. And on the money, I always did pretty well. Always made $200,000, $300,000 a year. But when I hit 50, I just realized, as materialistic as this sounds, I had to start netting $1 million a year if I was ever going to have the exceptional life I dreamed of. And then on the girl, at 50, I'd never been married, although I did a lot of interviewing. Uh, but David, David, I called it interviewing. My friends called it begging, which is probably the most. But so at 50, I'm like, well, how am I going to change things? And I would say, oh, maybe 3 months after I turned 50, this pearl of wisdom comes into my head to go find the top book in the world on success and apply that book literally word for word to my life. And so I remember I'd jump out of bed, I do the research, and I discover something pretty amazing, that there's one book that's read by 150 million people, and it's the top book in the world on success by a factor of 10. And that book is Think and Grow Rich, which, as you alluded to, you're well versed on. And so I'm like, wow, this thing is setting up perfect. Who knew there was one book that was the top book by a factor of 10? So I rush out, I read the book, and then I discovered the problem. The book says there was a secret for success, but the author only gives us half of the secret. And so, David, I'm bummed out, and I mope around for probably, I don't know, 3 weeks, and just one day get up and go, John, man up, figure out the damn secret. And so I immerse myself in the book, and I probably read it 20 times over a
Yeah.
3-month period of time.
Wow.
And I ultimately was able to figure out the secret and a 12-minute a day technique to apply it. And David, I started applying it to a new business I was starting in the reverse mortgage field. And quickly my income starts doubling and doubling and doubling to where approximately 4 years later, I'm blessed to be making 25 times the 200 to 300,000 a year I was making the prior 20 years. And of
Fantastic.
course, I felt so blessed. But what was particularly interesting, David, was I could see why it was happening. I mean, I was just playing the game of life at a higher level. I
Yeah.
could, I could do things I couldn't do before. I had a level of control over my life I'd never experienced before. And I just became fascinated that you could take two key scientific principles and apply them to your life and so dramatically impact your success. And so about 12 years ago, I finally had enough money so I didn't have to work, and I sold my company. And a month or two later, I meet the former chancellor and president here at the University of Texas, and
Mhm.
he says, "Hey, you got to teach this at the University of Texas, and why don't we teach it together?" And that led, he introduces me to the athletic director, who says, "Hey, I want to learn this 12-minute a day technique." And so I teach it to him, and that led to becoming the mental coach for the 18 head coaches. And so today I teach my methodology to athletes and students in a class called The Science of Success, the Science of Leveraging Yourself, what I would call advanced leadership of self. And then I teach my methodology to adults through my book. So that's what I do.
Oh, there's so much that I want to get into here, especially being, a college athlete myself. And I was, I want to get into the principles, but the idea of mental imagery and the manifestations and the things like that. And there's so much to unpack here. So I want to get into the missing secret and what inspired you. But you've mentioned that Napoleon Hill identified the principles of success, but not the process. So
Exactly.
Yes, this is really, really important, everybody. And first off, if you haven't read the book, Think and Grow Rich, or even The Laws of Success in 16 Lessons, pick it up. Go get it now. Okay, go get it now. If you have, then you're going to enjoy this a little bit more, but we're still going to unpack a lot here. So you've mentioned this, that Napoleon Hill identifies the principles of success, but not the process. Can you explain that distinction?
Yes, a very good point. Um, I'm providing the how. He tells you here's how it sort of works in the subconscious mind and all this. All very
Mastermind.
interesting, fascinating, but he doesn't explain, well, here's exactly how you do it. And that's what I think I bring to the table is a 12-minute a day way of applying the simple concept of Think and Grow Rich.
That's great. And how does your 12-minute a day method complete, or how should I say it, modernize the original techniques? Because remember, this book was written in 1937. And that's why I love the references they have when they talk about spending money in that book, and they talk about pennies,
Yeah,
here and
right.
there. You really look at it and you read it. That's always one thing that when I read it, I have to giggle about, because they're referencing the dollars and cents at that time of 1937. And but at any rate, how does your methodology complete or modernize the original teachings?
Right. Well, let's step back just
Yeah.
a bit. Maybe a 30,000 foot view of success. And let me throw a question out to your audience.
Yeah.
How do you create success in your life? Just think about that question. How do you create success in your life? And David, when I'm in front of somebody one on one, I'll ask them that question, and they'll sort of stumble around for an answer, and I'll try and recap whatever they said. And usually nobody's ever asked them that question before, but I'll recap what they said, and then the more pertinent question is, well, how's that working for you? Well, not so good. At least not for creating the exceptional life. And what I see, and I'd love your opinion about this. I see
Sure.
that most people are just winging life. They don't really have a way of doing life. They just get up every day, do their best they can. That was me for 50 years. And I believe that, first of all, they're winging life, but they're doing it because nobody gave them an alternative. Well, I mean, what do you?
Yes. I do. And I say this a lot. I couldn't agree with you more. The other thing is being able to, how do I want to put this? One, to be able to dream big and realize that if you put it out in the universe, and listen, you just can't put it out in the universe. You've got to have an intentional effort
Right.
to attain what your goal is, or how you want your life to be, that it will happen. Like, I have a number of cases where, whether it was financially or personally, and I would put something down or put something out in the universe that I was intentional about. And as long as you're doing things each and every day to achieve whatever you want to achieve, it will happen.
Yeah.
Dollars, like you said, and you have to be specific too. But also the idea of serving and giving back is a really big one. Especially when I was younger, I think there was a lot of times where I was so consumed about what I was going to get,
Right. Right.
that I didn't identify. I think naturally in some cases I was giving back, but I didn't identify it. And then there were other times where I might not have been giving back as much as I should have. And when you start giving back, which is a principle of either time or dollars for that matter, listen, you don't do it to expect it, but it starts coming your way.
Right. Right. Well, and I think the fundamental problem of winging life is, and I think this will surprise you, your intelligence intellect and logic is not directing your actions. And
Yes.
that's because 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are actually unconscious. They're in the moment, they're reactive. And since
Mhm.
they're unconscious, just think about this. Since they're unconscious, your conscious mind intelligence, intellect, and logic is not controlling your daily actions, yet those daily actions are the very thing that's determining your success.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
you have to fix that problem. And that's what my 12-minute a day technique does, essentially.
Yeah, and I do. I want to dig into the 12-minute a day methodology, right? And um, there's so much I want to dig in here. But give me a strategy, okay? Just give me one for our listeners out there, maybe who haven't read the book, but can we take a strategy or a principle for that matter and give us an example of how you apply, that 12-minute a day methodology or technique in helping. And what is the most common thing people want usually? And it's probably money, right? I want to be more
Right.
wealthy. I want to be, but can you talk through an example of how you've worked with somebody or give our listeners kind of paint that picture or frame it for them?
I can, if you wanted me to give you the example before I explain the secret, I'm glad to. But do you think it'd be better to explain the secret and then an example? Or how do you want to do it?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. You know what? I like your approach. Let's explain the secret and what inspired the missing secret, and then we'll go into the methodology and the technique.
Yeah. Okay. So let me explain the secret basically by telling you how I discovered the secret. And
Yes.
again, I'm 50 years old, and there's a little more going on with me than just feeling the scarcity of time. David, my mom was dying of pancreatic cancer right as I had turned 50, and she's in the hospital for like 8 weeks, and every day after work, I'd go and see her and love on her and hold her hand,
Mhm.
and it was everything I could do, David, to keep from breaking down in front of her. And so every night after I'd spend an hour or two with her, I would go in the cold, dark hospital parking lot and just cry my eyes out.
Oh
And I
man,
mean,
sorry.
really cry, like for 45 minutes or an hour.
Mm.
And and I had never experienced that level of emotional upheaval every night at that level. And I didn't quite understand it at the moment I was going through it, but obviously I'm feeling the impending loss of my mom, but there was more going on because I realized how much how many advantages my mom and dad gave me. Like they sent me to Jesuit
Mhm.
high school in Dallas. Really didn't
Mm.
have money. They sent me here to the University of Texas. I didn't have to pay for a thing, and
Yeah.
and so as my mom is leaving this world, I'm reflecting on my life and all the advantages she gave me. And David, I saw that all I had to show for my life was I had an average life. And I hated
Mhm.
the average life. Hated
Yes.
the average life because I just knew I was capable of so much more. And I was like puzzled, why does the results I'm getting not match what I think my intelligence is?
Yes.
And there's more in the tank that's coming than is coming out. And what I now see is that feeling of letting my mom down was like rocket fuel and
Mm.
caused me to go deeper into Think and Grow Rich than anybody on the planet ever had to figure out the secret. And so, does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes. So, but what inspired that? When did you have that moment? You're like, I'm gonna streamline this thing. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna give it a more uh, methodical approach versus like what we just talked about earlier. Like When did it dawn on you that the book here is giving me the ideas, but it's not giving me the technique?
Well, essentially, I read the book, and during this time with my mom, this is going on, and probably I don't know, 6 or 7 weeks into this,
Yeah.
one particular night was when I figured out the secret, and it's interesting that this particular night it was snowing in Dallas, and it doesn't snow very often in Dallas.
Yeah. No, it doesn't.
So I remember going to see my mom, going to the parking lot, crying my eyes out for an hour, and getting in my car, and I start driving home, and I see the big snowflakes hitting my windshield, and it just feels different. I don't know the significance of that. It just feels different.
Mhm.
Get home, I plop myself in my nice comfy chair and I start reading Think and Grow Rich again, probably the 20th time. And David, this night I read that your daily actions determine your success in each area of your life. And I'm like, wow, I never thought of it so simply, but the cumulative effect of your daily actions determine your success in your career, in your health, in your marriage. And I'm like, okay, I buy that. Um, and then I read essentially that 95% of your daily actions are unconscious. I'm like, huh, that's interesting. And so now I'm ready to sort of go to bed. And so I wash my face and brush my teeth and put my little head on the pillow. And I remember laying there and I can't stop thinking about 95% of your daily actions are unconscious.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, it's just, it hits me like a bolt of lightning. And I remember sitting up, I'm like, well, wait a minute. If your daily actions determine your success and 95% of them are unconscious, then I don't control the very thing that's determining my success. And I'm like, wow. And then I'm like, well, what does then? Oh, it's my unconscious mind, my autopilot. And
Yes.
then I start to realize, oh, well, not only that, but if they're unconscious, then my intelligence of my conscious mind is not directing those actions. And I start to grasp that what is I'm innately, we all are innately wired for survival, which causes us to be innately steered to be fear-based and reactive. And
Yeah.
so
Yes.
since those actions are unconscious, that's steering my actions, not my intelligence. And so I remember sort of coming to that conclusion and sitting up in my bed and seeing the glistening snowflakes falling in my backyard, and I'm feeling this epiphany moment. And David, what was particularly interesting
Uh-huh.
is that I'm like, oh, you know, the reason I'm not more successful is not from lack of intelligence or drive. It's from having a false belief about success
Mhm.
for like 50 years. And I dare say that everybody listening to this has the same false belief I had, and that is that you control your daily actions and that your intelligence is driving your daily actions. Well, that is flat out wrong.
Wrong.
That is
Oh.
that is wrong. And once I sort of got that and rectified that false belief, then the full secret came to me. And what the full secret of Think and Grow Rich is what you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life.
Yes.
Let me say that again. What you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And
What,
what
please,
that,
please, one more time. Just I want our listeners not, if they're going to take anything from this show today, it's that. I got to hear that one more time.
okay, I'm glad to do it. What you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And what that means, here's what that means. You create immense clarity about each area of your life. Exactly the person you want to be, exactly what you want to accomplish, and precisely how you're going to achieve your clearly defined goals. And once you create that clarity, you put it on a template that I created. And now putting it on the template will allow you to create the clarity. But you get it on the template, and then you start feeding it to yourself every day. It takes approximately 12 minutes a day. And after after you do that, three things then happen. The first thing you experience is this immense sense of control over your life, which of course you would. You're feeding the succinct articulation of your desired life. Of course, you're going to feel control. Then the second thing you experience is confidence, because that's a direct result of the control you feel. And David, you also feel way less stressed because the mind thrives on order. And by feeding the succinct articulation of your desired life, you're creating immense order in the mind. And then the third thing that happens is that after 21 days, because that's how long it takes to rewire your autopilot, then the right actions start happening automatically without thinking. And you're impacting all three key areas of your life. Your health, your marriage, your career, and
Yeah.
so that's essentially how it works.
It is so powerful. And I do this every day. And it's an affirmation. And I may say it, I don't know, 10 times a day, or I don't know how many times a day. Now, it's not quite 12 minutes a day, but for me, it's an affirmation about, what I have, who I am, and how I want to serve. And those are really the big things. And it's a figment of what you're talking about here, but it is really powerful stuff. Because the one thing that you said is it almost settles you down, right?
Yeah, right.
It settles you down to know that because you want your life this way, or you want to be this person, or you want this person in your life, or whatever it may be that you're affirming to, that when it starts happening and you realize the process works, your confidence level raises and your anxiety level lowers. It is real, everybody. I can't stress it enough. I just, John, it's so powerful.
Well, and this works on everybody. That's the beauty of this. It is pure science. It cannot not work. If you do it, it works. Now, if you don't do it, it does not work. But
Right.
it works 100% of the time. And let me give you the core science, and then I'm going to give you an example.
Yes, please.
The core science is this. Here's how the conscious mind and the subconscious mind works. Um, Conscious mind sets your intentions and is influenced by logic. Subconscious mind is controlling your daily actions, or 95% of them, and it's only influenced by repetition. And let me give you an example. Say you want to lose weight. Conscious mind sets the intention to lose weight based on the logic of the health benefits. But obviously, people fail to lose weight not from lack of intention, but from lack of influencing the part of their brain that's controlling their daily actions, specifically what they eat and exercise, what they're exercising. And so you can see, when you feed the succinct articulation of your desired life to yourself each day, that's the repetition the subconscious mind needs to make the right actions happen automatically without thinking. And does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
And
keep going. This is
so
great.
I'll give you an example of this. This is, I think you'll see it. And I see it's really pretty easy, especially to see
Okay.
this, like within your romantic relationship. And this is how life works. It's all in the moment. It's all reactive. Um, and so, like with Ginger and I, we get going each morning, and she goes off and she's doing her thing, and I'm doing my thing, and at dinner we get back together, and she starts preparing dinner and putting the dinner on, and now keep in mind in my I call it my life GPS template. Um,
Yeah.
I affirm to myself a couple of things. First of all, I affirm that I am flexible, patient, and thoughtful. And I define what that means in our relationship. The other thing I'm affirming is that Ginger is different than me. She does things slow and is people oriented. And I'm the opposite. I do things fast and I'm task oriented. So she's preparing the dinner, and everything has to be perfect. She's a perfectionist. And I'm thinking, and let me emphasize, I'm only thinking this. I'm thinking, babe, let's get the food on the table. I'm hungry. I am hungry. Let's go. But again, I'm only thinking that. But here's the point of that. At exactly the right moment when I first had that pang of impatience, and before I say something that comes out of my mouth, a unconscious thought bubbles up to my conscious mind, and it goes, John, here's an opportunity to be patient. There's no sense in pushing her on this. It's not going to speed it up. All it's going to do is create tension during dinner. So just keep your mouth shut and be patient. And that all basically happens automatically. And the point really of that is you see an example of I'm moving from, if I wasn't reading my Life GPS template every morning, I would be just the regular person that is reacting to whatever I feel, and I would have said something to express my impatience. Whereas now I am now dialing in my conscious mind for my intelligence to take control of my actions and
Yep.
not say anything.
Yep.
That makes sense?
Just takes makes 100% sense to me to be able to just let that roll. But again, it's the conditioning, because this isn't something you just turn on like a switch, right? I mean, you've got to be disciplined in how do I want to say it? You've got to be disciplined in the way, in the system to do this, and you've got to identify. First, you got to identify when you want to make a change. Two, you
Right.
got to identify what that is specifically. Okay. And then three, you've got to be conscious of it.
Right. Well,
And then it will subconsciously come happen. If I could, it's probably not the best way to say it, but
well, you said something that let me go after that a little.
yeah.
It is like a switch because here's what happens. Uh, you create your life GPS template, and before I forget about it,
Okay.
I created an AI algorithm. But all you got to do is answer 50 questions, press a button. 10 seconds later, my template is customized to your unique life. Very slick, easy.
Yeah.
And so once you create the template, which candidly is the hard part because you got to answer those 50
That's what
questions.
I'm talking about. Yes. The hard
And,
part is, yep.
the 12 minutes a day is not the hard part. But once you create the template and you get it just right, and you start feeding it to yourself after 21 days, and you will typically not see it work before 21 days, but around the 21st day, it's like a light goes on in your head where all of a sudden the right actions are happening automatically without thinking. Just like that example of being patient. About 21 days at exactly the right time, then it's, oh, here's a chance to be patient. And
Opportunity.
and what you'll see, and this is the thing that I think is so powerful about it, in my life GPS template, there's 40 or 50 intentions in the various aspects of my life that I'm impacting. And not only, I mean, I'm doing it, I'm impacting them every day, every month, every year. And you can see the compounding effect of that that very quickly you're just playing this game of life at a higher level, and you have this immense sense of control over your life. And so it's a pretty cool thing, but it takes 21 days of doing it before you've rewired your autopilot
Start
to
wiring. So great. It's so great, John. And listen, for context, everybody, John coaches. I mean, when I talk about high achievers, business leaders, athletes, I mean, he works with top producing people who want to be even stronger producers. So, John, one question for you on this, okay? This is kind of boggling my mind a little bit. What patterns do you see amongst those who succeed using your method versus those who may struggle applying it? I'd love to know the difference on that.
Great question. And maybe the easiest way is to explain it this way.
Okay.
So I think this happened 5 years ago or so. I decide I'm going to take my methodology to the top expert in the world on success, whoever he or she might be, because I want to see if are there flaws in it. Is there something similar to it? And so I decide Darren Hardy is the man.
Okay.
So I write a big check, fly out to La Jolla, California. I take the Ginge with me. And oh, by the way, I met my wife from doing this methodology. So I got another goal. And so she goes with me, and we meet with Darren. The moment comes, and I put the template in his hand, and I explain how it works. And he says, John, this is really good. But he says, John, people are not going to spend 12 minutes a day on this. And I'm like, Darren, how the heck can that be? I mean, at 25x my income, Time Magazine did a cover story on the science behind it. And we're applying the central concept of the top book in the world on success, people's lives. I mean, what do you mean they're not going to spend 12 minutes a day on this? He goes, John, he sort of laughs. He says, the dirty little secret in the success and human achievement field is that more success is merely a preference for the vast majority of people, merely a preference. And he says, that's literally 98% of people. And David, when he told me that, I'm like, oh, I see the problem now. I thought this was for everybody because I assumed that everybody was the world's full of John Mitchells.
Yeah.
Well, it's not. And how unenlightened was I? And from that point on, then I'm like, well, okay, just go find more John Mitchells. And so I started getting involved with EO. You know what EO is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
The traction and
right.
Yeah.
And Entrepreneurs Organization.
Oh, Entrepreneurs Organization. Yeah, where you got to have $1 million to get in, and yes.
Yeah. So just to reiterate what you said, NEO, you got to be grossing $1 million.
Grossing $1 million. That's what it is. Yes.
What's interesting, David, is only 5% of them are netting $1 million. And so I'm like, this is the perfect organization for me. So I go and I start, doing speeches, and to lure people in, I said to them, listen, I will give you a money back guarantee. If I can't double your income within a year, I'll give you your money back. Now you got to be making a minimum of $200,000 a year, and if you play out the math, because I would charge them like $20,000 to teach them this over basically 6 weeks, they were getting a 35 to 40 to 1 return over 3 years on that investment. And they had like the money back guarantee. Well, so I get clients, and I start doing that, and every time I never had to give anybody their money back, and I would video their experience so I could document it, and so it took me like I don't know, year and a half to do 10 or 12 people. And then I'm like, this is so unleveraged that, and my relationship with the University of Texas was expanding.
Yeah.
And I just realized if I really want to share this with the world, I got to do a book. And I had to create the AI algorithm that I didn't have back then. And so it was very enlightening. But the point, this is long-winded answer to
Yeah.
your
It's good.
simple
That's all
question,
right.
um,
Love it.
is if you're not really serious about success, this is not for you. If you're in that
Yeah.
category where, yeah, you'd like to be more successful, but it's a preference, not for you. Don't do
Yep.
that. And so the difference is that it's really for people that want to play the game of life at their full potential. That's how I define the 2%. It's not what is your income now. It's and you could be a housewife that just wants to be great at raising your kids. You
Yeah.
do the 2%. But I am amazed at how many people more success is just a preference. If that's not you, I can just feel that about you, and it's not me.
It's
But
not you.
that's most people, unfortunately.
Not 2%. Listen to that, everybody. 2%. And I think also, what do you think that is? Why do you think that is, John? Is it fear of failure? Is it fear of the unknown? Is it having to pay the price, feeling like they have to put in the what is that?
Well,
Why do you think it's
let me answer that in two ways.
okay?
Um, Maybe let me answer it from the 30,000-foot view.
Sure.
But I want to drill down a little. I think that when God created human beings and put them on this earth, for whatever reason, keep in mind, we're all wired for survival. The only way this thing works, this thing we call life, human life, is if 2% are highly driven. And because if you move it up to 3% or 4%, it doesn't work. It's just God in his, the infinite intelligence of life.
Yes.
That's what it is. Is it precisely 2%? I don't know. I'm estimating it, but I think from a 30,000-foot view, that's true. But more specifically, and I see this in my class and I see this in people in general, though.
Yeah.
Every one of them, and I mean 100% of them, had the feeling of not enough, not good enough. They have a negative inner voice. And of course, I pointed out to them, I said, of course you do. You're wired for survival, which causes the majority of your thoughts to be fear-based and you're reactive. Now, that was great 50,000 years ago, but it's exactly the opposite of how you want to be if you want to be productive, creative, and happy. So you have to override that wiring for survival, and that's what my 12-minute day technique does. But I know you know this as well as I do. People are living their lives feeling like they're not good enough, and they've got this negative inner voice. And of course, I was guilty of this until I was 50. And I'm like, what a lousy way to live. And it's so easy to change it because the amazing thing about the subconscious mind is it's so easy to manipulate. And whatever you feed it consistently, it believes. It doesn't have logic to go, whoa, wait a minute, I don't know about this, I don't know about that. It just believes what you consistently feed it. That's why it's easy to manipulate.
It It is so true. And listen back to what he just said here. I probably those last 2 minutes of and how it ended as well, which stuck out to me is what you feed it. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the reality from the not reality. It's all what you put into your brain. If you're putting positive things, that's why I always say good inputs, good outputs, right? Negative inputs, negative outputs. I mean, it's a cycle that naturally happens. What's that?
Pure input.
Pure input. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. It's exactly what it is. So it's such a powerful thing. And listen back to what he just said there, because it's really, really powerful stuff. Oh man, there's so many ways I want to go here.
Well, I got an idea. Let's do something that I think you'll find interesting. I think your audience will find interesting.
Okay.
I want you to have the same epiphany that I had when I was 50, and your audience to have the same epiphany. And so think about this, David. In your life, how old are you?
I'm 51.
Oh God, you're at such a perfect age. So how many epiphanies in your life have you had where you learned something from somebody else that radically changed your life?
Many. I mean, it as far as I think the first one I had was to be a millionaire when I wanted to be a millionaire.
Well, wait a minute. Let me adjust my question too.
Yeah.
I want to know the number of epiphanies that you've had where somebody or some book taught you one thing that radically changed your life. Obviously, for me, I've had that happen now 4 times in my life, and when I was 50, I'd probably had it happen maybe once. But you know what I'm saying? So I suspect you probably
it was a manifestation is what it was.
That
was the epiphany. It was the epiphany for me, was the manifestation that I had. There was actually two points, and they were both nominal. And now I'm wired totally different from that at this point, and I have other things in my life. But the first one I'll say was when I was younger. I was probably in my mid-20s, and it was reading from the book about the manifestations and putting things out there. And my first thing was, hey, I want to save up $200,000 by the time I'm 30 years old.
Yeah.
And it never happens the way you think it's going to happen, everybody. I'm going to tell you that right now. That's first and foremost, okay? So it's not like it happens in this way that, oh, I got a check for $200,000 and I saved. No, it really came down to selling a business at that point. And at 30 years old, I went, holy smokes, I did it. I actually, and that was like the first one. Okay. Yeah. And then the second one was by the age of 42, I wanted to be a millionaire.
Right.
And let me tell you, when I started having that manifestation, and there was reasons I'm not going to go into why I said 42, but when I got to 42 years old, I was a millionaire.
Right.
And so the two that stick out in my mind are this, and not because of the nominal dollars. That's not why I'm making this point. And I'm not trying to impress anybody or press upon everybody about dollars. It's more the conceptual idea of coming to the realization of specifically, okay, because the other thing you have to do that I've learned in this is when you're more detailed about your visualization, or you're more specific, right? When you're more specific to what you want, you'll get there. And those are the two that, and unfortunately there's others, but those two are the ones to answer your question. I stick out in my mind from a nominal standpoint.
Well, and I would dare say that most people fall in the category, if you're 50 years old, you probably had maybe a couple of epiphanies that changed your life. And so here's the epiphany that came to me at 50. Again, this is super simple. 95% of your daily actions are in the moment and unconscious. And since they're unconscious, you don't control the very thing that's determining your success. In other words, your intelligence and intellect is not directing your daily actions. And so to have a higher level of success, hey, it's so simple. You got to gain control over those unconscious daily actions. And so now I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you believe that 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious? Absolutely, you do.
Yeah.
And but think about this. This is new information to most people, right? You buy that?
I'm surprised, but yes, I'm going to go with your yes answer. It's new
Well,
information to most people.
well, I know I'm guilty of the same thing. I'm like, what? You didn't know that? Well, I didn't know that, and I see now in my world, I have to stop looking at it from John's point of view and
Right, right. Me too, John. I'm on the same boat as you. You and I are in the same boat on that.
and I have to fight myself all the time because I forget about that. But it is really new information. In fact, I was just talking to my class about this because I've now taught them all this stuff, and like, did anybody not realize that 95% of your daily thoughts and actions were unconscious? They're like, oh, we've never heard that before. And so that's people in general. But I want to show you something that's pretty cool, just to prove this point, because
Okay.
you know how it is. People are throwing around facts. You don't know what's true and what's not true.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
true these days.
Listen to Chat GPT. Watch this. I'm gonna if she'll cooperate. Hold on. She's thinking about it.
Okay.
I don't know if she's I don't know why she's been a little funky today. Well, you
That
can
way.
I'll tell you what she's going to say essentially. I'm going to ask her. So, is that really true that 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious? And she will say, yes, it is well documented in the scientific community that that's true. And you can also Google this. And then the next thing I'd ask her, I'd go, was it really true that what really happens is that you take an action unconsciously, and then a couple of milliseconds later you become conscious of it? And she'll go, yes, that's true. And that's again new information because a lot of people go, well, I don't know about all this because I'm conscious of every action I'm taking. And they think that because they're becoming aware of it so almost instantaneous to taking the action, they think they consciously took the action when in fact that is exactly what didn't happen.
Exactly.
They took the
Exactly.
action consciously and then became aware of it. And so that's sort of how it works, and that's why I usually can get ChatGPT to cooperate with me, and it will confirm that. And so here's the question to you, and I know I'm going to love your answer.
Okay. I hope so.
What are you doing to impact those unconscious daily actions? What's your morning routine to impact them?
So my morning routine is first thing I do is work out. I wake up, I drink water. I make sure that I get in 12 ounces of water when I start my day, and
Right.
then I'm hitting the gym and making sure that I get my workout in because I got to get my engine rolling, right? But then when I wake up, I do want to rewind here. I do my affirmations, and my affirmations are geared around I have a great life, great career. I'm a great person. I'm a great father, husband, and leader, and I serve to help people personally and professionally. I ask the Lord to help me do that to the best of my ability, from Him, through me, through them.
Do you say it the same way every time?
I do say it the same way every time.
Good.
And then the last part is, I will always have more money, love, and prosperity in my life than I need. And I will continue to attract an abundance of money, love, prosperity into my life. You can see how I'm rolling this. I roll it every day. So I do that. And
Right. Well, let me tell you the problem with that.
okay, talk to me.
Let me affirm how great it is that you do it, because the vast majority of people, vast majority of people are not doing that. And it's very good. But here's the problem.
Okay, talk to me.
Your mind only responds to things that are specific. So you got to be really specific. And maybe the a good analogy of this is I have a friend of mine that is really sharp, really successful, and I ask him what he does for his morning routine, and he says, "Well, I pray, I journal, and I do affirmations." And I'm like, that is good, but it pales in comparison to feeding the succinct articulation of your desired life to yourself each day. Because if you're going to really raise your game, you want to give the subconscious mind all the details it needs to do all the things you want to do. You want to be able to say, like in my career, here's
Yes.
my goal. Here's the key behaviors I need to be doing to achieve my goal. Same thing, health, same thing, marriage. And so, as good as what you're doing is, and it really is, uh,
Yes.
multiply it by 100 by giving your subconscious mind all the details of the essence of what you're giving it. And that's what will cause you to play the game at an even higher level than you already are.
So I want to hear this. Okay, I'm going to flip it because I know our audience wants to hear it and I want to hear it. What do you do in the first part of your day when you wake up? I would love to hear it.
The first thing I do is I get up and go to the bathroom. And I guess most of us, even
Yeah.
that.
Right.
And then the second thing I do, I come back and you can listen to your life GPS template or you can read it. And I have clients that do both. I do a sort of combination. I read it 1 or 2 days a week. I listen to it, 5 or 6 days a week. So I will put my headphones on, put my
Okay.
head on the pillow, turn on the vibrating bed, and lay back for 12 minutes. And I will hear the succinct articulation of my desired life in my own voice using an app we have, and it is so empowering that then I will get up and I'll get dressed and I'll read the paper, and then before I actually start working, I'll take 5 minutes to just calm down, to meditate for about a minute or two, to feel
Okay.
grateful. Of course, I've covered that in my life GPS template, but before I launch into my day, I just want to, recenter myself, and that's how I start my day.
That's great. That's great. I listen, I'm taking notes right now because I'm learning and I'm thinking about some of the reprogramming for myself too, because I think here's the challenge that with high, and I'm sure you see this with high performing individuals, they keep go, 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 right? And we've all heard the story, or maybe you have, or maybe you haven't heard the axe story about, the lumberjack who goes to work for a timber merchant. And he comes in the first day, he knocks down 10 trees. The second day, he knocks down 5 trees. The third day, he knocks down 2 trees. By the 5th day at the end of the week, he doesn't have any trees knocked down. He can't cut any.
Right.
And he comes back in the office at the end of the day on Friday to the timber merchant, and he says, "I let you down. I couldn't chop down any trees today." And he goes, "Well, did you take time to sharpen your axe?" And he goes, "How can I do that? I was chopping trees down." So the moral of the story is you can't just keep going all the time. You got to take time to sharpen your axe. And what we're talking about here is just that, sharpening your axe, taking time to really sharpen yourself and your mind and your subconscious to move your life in a direction that you want it to be.
You know, David, that is such a great story because I look at my life and see that I worked harder than all my friends. And when I got to be 50, I'm like, hard work does not work. It does not work. It works for creating the average to good life, but it does not work for making the exceptional life. You got to work smart. And in this world we live in, people talk about that, but nobody says, here's exactly how you do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like I bring to the success and human achievement field is the exact how to work smart. And
Yes.
so, because if you look at the success business, and Darren Hardy's obviously the sort of leader of the industry, I think, there's a lot of great strategies, but you got great strategies coming out of your ears. You need great strategies to show up in your thoughts and actions automatically without thinking, and that's what I bring to the table. And
Yeah.
one other thing I would say about this too
Sure.
is so how credible is all the stuff I've been talking about?
It's amazing.
Well, here's something to consider, and I'm proud of this. It took me 2 years to get this through the University of Texas McCombs School of Business. And for you that don't know, according to U.S. News and World Reports, McCombs is one of the top business schools in the country, right up there with Harvard and Stanford. And so, as you can imagine, to get this approved when yeah, it's just me and my story and having to prove the science and prove that it's legit. It took a lot of effort. And if you're listening to this has been vetted at the highest level. And I know if I was listening to this, I'm like, maybe this is a little different than anything else I've ever heard. That's my take on it.
It's the truth. And, again, it goes back to how we were talking, I think about, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes ago or whatever it was. When you've conditioned yourself among these principles and you're applying this stuff, and again, my format's maybe not as traditional as yours and what you teach, but there's a conceptual commonality to it, right? Like So, but we forget when we're wired this way, listen, John and I didn't wake up wired this way. Okay. Like he talked about a story at 50, he figured it out. I was lucky enough to be exposed to some good information that helped me figure that out, and also experiences, as we both did. But a lot of people, we forget sometimes that a lot of people just, as we talked about the percentages, just either haven't been exposed to it or maybe been exposed to it. And the bigger thing is this, John, applying it. Like,
Right.
You can go all the great speaking events in the world, and you can listen to Tony Robbins, and people walk out of there all pumped up. But the biggest thing that they don't do is apply the information that they've received. Right. And I think that's how could you, so in using that example, how do you recommend that somebody really, I would say a difference between motivation and discipline. Motivation is to have an action to get a result, a desired result. Right. Discipline is having an action or performing an action to get a desired result over time.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So with fast life and changing, how do you use your method to stay focused and disciplined over time and conditioning versus go ahead.
Well, I'm just conditioning myself and my autopilot to be that way. Again, whatever you feed yourself, you are like my natural inclination is to be impatient. I mean, just yeah, I'm self-aware enough to realize that's who John Mitchell is, and that natural inclination can sort of sometimes create an edge unless I program myself to go, oh, there's that edge, there's that impatience. Just just slow it down, John. Just let it, and it that's why you can program discipline into you. And one of the things I saw in my life is, and this was my life experience, you got to have something in your life that gives you an edge, an advantage.
Mm,
Because if you don't have that, and I didn't have it until I was 50, you're going to get the average life. Now, that's just my 2 cents.
yeah,
But that's what this is. It gives you an edge in life. And the amazing thing is, it only takes 12 minutes a day. But you got to be the type of person where more success is a necessity, not just a preference.
it's great, man. I told you, everybody, this was going to be a fantastic conversation. And I got to tell you, John, this has been a great interview for me. Honored to have you on the show and for us to really connect and talk about this. And listen, here's the other thing too. I am a forever student. I will not tell you that I have it figured out, because I do not. Okay. What I'm telling you is, though, I'm very intentional every day about growing and getting stronger as for myself personally and professionally. And I think that's the bigger thing, is to believe that you can do it and get out there and make that change for yourself. So last question actually I have two questions before we go. But first one is this: for listeners who want to start implementing your process today, okay, if they're like, man, I love what this guy's got going on, I want to start doing this, what's the first step they can take towards reprogramming their mind for success?
Well, go to themissing secret.org. Themissing secret.org.
We'll put it up on the screen.
And David, I created a 9-minute video that fully explains the secret of Think and Grow Rich and shows the template and explains the science all in 9 minutes. It's free. Don't go buy my book. Watch that video.
Okay.
And then if you like it, then go buy the book. It gives you access to the template. It fully explains the science, and so that's how we would move it forward.
Great, man. Great. Excellent. Last question: where can people reach out to you or connect with you, or website, to get more information? I know you just talked about the first step, but if someone wanted to reach out to you, where could they find you, John?
Well, the name of my company is thinkitbeit.com, and you can reach me at john@thinkitbeit.com. And one thing, David, I would maybe a parting comment, quick story. So I became a grandfather like 5 years ago for the first time.
Congratulations.
And, thank you. And so I coerced my stepdaughter to name our new grandbaby after Ginger, whose formal name is Genevieve. So I twist her arm. She does it. The day after baby Genevieve was born, we go over there to Hannah's house. And keep in mind, I never had kids of my own. So we're over there, and we're there about 5 minutes. And of course, there's a lot of oohing and awing about the baby.
All right.
But they give me the baby. They put the baby in my arms, and they walk away. And here I am. I'm holding this precious little 1-day-old little girl. I have her close to my chest. I can feel the warmth of her body. And David, I start crying. I just have tears flowing down my face because I'm seeing how precious life is and how this little life is. And I start thinking, she's going to live to be 100 years old. And the quality of her life is going to come down to the quality of the thoughts going on in our head most of the time. And I'm like, by God, I'm going to impact the quality of those thoughts. But the point of that story for your listeners is your life is precious. Your life is precious. And so when you put your head on the pillow tonight, just think about your life. And if the next 5 years are like the last 5 years, will you be satisfied with that? And
Yeah.
and if you're not satisfied with it, stop winging life. You've now learned a way to actually do life to create the exceptional life you desire. And all it takes is 12 minutes a day.
What a great way to close this out. Listen, you're all meant to do something special, whether how big or how small, it doesn't matter. And I think however you want that to be, you got to start thinking about it. John, this has been a fantastic interview. I want to thank you again for being here today. It's really been a great conversation, and I want to stay in touch with you for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Man, that'd be great if we could meet. I'd like to meet you someday. Really,
So
I'm gonna start manifesting that. Yeah,
well, come to Austin.
yeah. I'm telling you, I've been there. It's a great city. Great city.
Right.
Yeah, but let's make sure to stay in touch. And again, it'd be great to connect at some point. But listen, everybody, like this show, share this show. I'm sure you've got a lot out of it. Get to somebody who else can get a lot out of it. We really appreciate your support out there. As always, wealth, health, success to all of you out there. And as I always say, I don't care how big or how small it is, go get a win today. Go get a win. And thanks again, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Unfinished Business Podcast Show with your host, David Sliman.